This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we're going to speak about why the plain language of an insurance policy will usually be enforced by a court and why there is never coverage if a home is vacant and unoccupied for more than 60 days, and why if a plaintiff fails to respond to a counterclaim, that plaintiff is admitting to all of the allegations of the counterclaim. In a case entitled Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company versus Rebecca Massey, the United States District Court for the Southern District of West Virginia on May 22, 2025, ruled on Nationwide's motion for default judgment against Plaintiff Massey for failure to respond to the counterclaim. In a case entitled Nationwide Mutual versus Rebecca Massey, the United States District Court for the Southern District of West Virginia on May 22, 2025, ruled on Nationwide's motion for default judgment against Massey for failure to respond to its counterclaim and because the claim was excluded by the policy. On February 26, 2022, plaintiff's home was destroyed by a fire. At the time of this incident, plaintiff had a home insurance policy with Nationwide. Plaintiff reported the fire loss to Nationwide, which refused to pay for the damages under the policy because the home had been vacant for more than 60 days. Plaintiff filed suit and Nationwide was served. Nationwide removed the action to federal court and on the same day filed an answer and a counterclaim that sought declaratory judgment that there was no coverage under the Nationwide policy for the February 26, 2022 fire loss because the home in question was left vacant or unoccupied beyond a period of 60 days prior to the loss in breach of a condition of the insurance coverage in question. District courts may enter default judgment against a properly served party under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 55. Rule 55A provides for entry of a default where a party against whom a judgment or affirmative relief is sought has failed to plead or otherwise defend. The court must consider all well-pleaded facts alleged in a complaint as to liability taken by the court as true. Nationwide filed its counterclaim, and plaintiff has utterly failed to respond or otherwise appear or defend against the counterclaim. Because of silence from the plaintiff and counter-defendant, the factual allegations in the counterclaim were deemed admitted by the court. Nationwide has sufficiently pled an action for declaratory judgment, and the plain language of the policy provisions that there is no coverage for a fire at a house vacant and unoccupied for 60 or more days. Therefore, the court awarded Nationwide the declaratory judgment relief sought in its counterclaim that there's no coverage under the Nationwide policy for the February 26, 2022 fire loss. The declaratory judgment foreclosed plaintiff's breach of contract claim based on Nationwide's declination to pay under the Nationwide policy. Nationwide was granted the declaratory judgment relief sought in its counterclaim, and the court declared that there is no coverage under the Nationwide policy for the fire loss because the home in question was left vacant in breach of a material condition of the insurance policy. In my opinion, it is common practice for an insurer to exclude damage to a dwelling by fire if the dwelling is vacant and unoccupied for more than 60 days, because the vacancy increases the risk of loss. The plaintiff attempted to sue the insurer, hoping it would give up, only to find that Nationwide fought back and sued for an order that it owed nothing. By her silence, plaintiff and her counsel decided it wasn't worth their time or expense to argue against the insurer's counterclaim. They were right and should have just dismissed their case instead of compelling Nationwide to go through the motion process. This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zelma.com/blog. You can subscribe to the blog, and if you do, you'll receive notice of every blog posting, usually 5, sometimes 6 a week, and you'll gain access to the more than 5,050 blog postings. You can also subscribe to these videos on rumble.com and youtube.com. And if you do, I'd appreciate it if you click on the thumbs up button at Rumble or the like button on YouTube. Please tell your friends and colleagues about this blog and the videos so that they too can subscribe. And if you're interested in additional detail about insurance, insurance claims, insurance law, and insurance fraud, please consider subscribing for a very small fee to my Substack publications. Thank you for your attention.